Hello, geography students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 8, Section 2, Central America. Take a look at number 1. The civilization in Central America before the Spaniards came was built by the Mayan. They built large cities with pyramids and temples, all by the year 250, abandoned them roughly around the year 900. After that, around the beginning of the 1500s, near the end of the 1400s, the Spaniards had established colonies throughout Central America. By 1821, many of these colonies actually had declared their independence from Spain and formed what was known as the United Provinces of Central America. Countries like Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala separated from each other somewhere around the 1830s, 1838 through 1839. The nation of Panama, on the other hand, was actually a part of Colombia and would remain a part of Colombia until 1903, when there was a little rebellion. And part of that was kind of spurred on by the United States with the hope of building a canal. And number 3, the nation of Belize did not gain their independence from the British until 1981. Wars in Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador in the 1900s began with people who started to resent the fact that large foreign companies like your fruit companies like United Fruits, and a few very rich or wealthy families owned most of the land, and they demanded land reforms. Most people in Central America are mestizos, which is people who are a mix of European and Indian or Native American ancestry. Uh, there are people of African ancestry that make up a significant minority in this region that live along the Caribbeans. But we also see people who are mulatto, which is a mix of European and African as well. Many people in Central America speak the native Indian languages. In most countries, Spanish is the official language, with the exception of Belize, where English happens to be the official language. Some people in the region still speak Native American languages because they live in remote highlands or the tropical forest, which were difficult for Europeans to reach. Most people in this region are Roman Catholic because the Spanish missionaries taught the religion to the Indians. Traditional foods in this region are corn, hot peppers, tomatoes, and cocoa, which is the source of chocolate. Guatemala is the most populous country in the region with roughly 14 million people. Most people in Guatemala do live in rural villages. And from 1960 to about 1996, about 200,000 people were killed as a result of fighting between the rural rebels and the government forces. The most important crop for Guatemala is still coffee. Belize has the smallest population of this region. Part of that is due to a lack of land. They do have ecotourism, and they practice the practice of using the area's natural environment to attract tourists has become very popular. The nation of El Salvador has been riddled by civil war from 1980 to about 1992 due to a few rich families owning much of the land, while most of the people lived in poverty. The Sandinista National Liberation Front, or AKA the Sandinistas, formed in the country of Nicaragua in 1962 to oppose the dictator known as Anatusa Somoza Debayle, or AKA the Somozas. The Somoza family had controlled Nicaragua since 1979, and they greatly enriched themselves and all of their associates. Around 1979, the Sandinistas toppled the Somoza government and took control, and they offered immediate measures to help the poor. Though I will say this, the Sandinistas had support from countries like the Soviet Union and Cuba. So they probably had ties to those people who were either socialist or communist. The United States did not support the Sandinistas because they saw them as being kind of a leftist government. And in 1981, the United States began to finance a counter revolutionary military force to overthrow the Sandinistas called the Contras. And eventually, that funneling of money to Nicaragua is going to result in a fairly large political scandal known as the Iran Contra affair that happened in the middle to the later part of the 1980s. Number 14, Costa Rica differs from many of the other Central American countries because it has a history of peace. It has a stable democratic government, and it does not have any army at this point in time. Panama is the southernmost country in Central America. The Panama Canal, which was completed in 1914, connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. It was built by the United States, and the canal was handed back to the people of Panama in 1999. In 2016, a new set of locks is going to open, or did open, to allow what is known as the Neo-Panamax cargo ships. These are some of the biggest cargo ships in the world, um, and also to allow the ever expanding size of cruise ships. The original locks are pretty narrow. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the photo here, you can see kind of the light post. When the United States was moving its naval carriers during World War II, some of the carriers were so wide that they knocked over some of these posts. So with the bigger locks that you see pictured here, this is going to allow for these ships to pass with some relative ease, but it also is kind of indicative of the fact that our shipping industry is becoming very, very important, and it needs uh, resources, not only in the terms of the locks on these canals, but also the ports. They have facilities that's going to be large enough to accommodate these larger ships. Thank you very much.